Phil said that y'all generally go till about 3 o'clock. So I had to do a little extra work this morning, or this week actually, and so sit back. We might take a short break in there at times. I don't know. The second question you've got on your mind is probably, well, just what kind of a preacher is this guy? I have no idea what to tell you about that because, quite honestly, it's been my experience, church folks are nice. And so usually going out, you'll either do as your mother instructed you. If you don't have something good to say, you don't say anything at all. Or you'll lie to me. You'll just be nice and say, oh, that was really a good sermon, and I always wondered just what about it was good. Maybe that it was short. But kids take the truth. Okay? So one Sunday morning, walking out of church, one of the little boys, I was shaking her hands, and he looked at me, and he reaches up, and he hands me a dollar bill. And I said, Zach, what's that for? He said, well, preacher, that's my offering. I said, well, Zach, why don't you just put it in the offering plate like everybody else does? And he says, no, he said, preacher, I want to make sure you get this. He says, my daddy says you're the poorest preacher we ever had. So now you know. Okay, if you've got your Bibles with you and you want to, turn your Bibles to John chapter 15. We're going to specifically look at verses 12 through about 15. But really, where we are with this is we're at the point of time that Jesus, things are about to get really real. Jesus is about to go to the cross. This is one of the last times that he really has an opportunity to meet with the disciples and to try to share some things with them that are really on his heart. I guess I like to think of this in terms of if you knew things were coming to an end, what would you share with the people that are closest to you? And so this is a really, very real moment in the life of Jesus, and he's sharing with his disciples, and he's sharing with them some things that are kind of difficult for them at the time to really understand. But I think they really shed some light on what Jesus really came to do. And so there's a question to ponder this morning. Okay, you know, there are things in life and questions in life that we want to ponder once in a while. Like, why do people always say heads up when you need to duck? Or why is there a braille on the ATM machine at the bank? You know, there are just things in life to ponder. So the question to ponder this morning is, did Jesus come to this earth to establish a religion, or did Jesus come to make friends? Now, if he came to establish a religion, he was obviously very successful, right? Christianity is one of the largest religions in the world. It's gone on for a little over 2,000 years now. So it would have been considered a huge success. But is that really what Jesus intended to do? So I'm going to, and by the way, I'm going to ask a couple volunteers, Phil and Bill, a little bit later because they are the ones responsible for what you have to endure this morning. And so when it comes time, you have no idea what you're getting yourself into, but that's all right. It's up to me to make it work. Okay, so I have gotten the point in my line, so I can remember where I put them. I have to have these to read. That's not fun. I don't like it, but it's reality. Okay, so we're going to read here. Jesus says, this is my commandment, that you love one another as I have loved you. Greater love has no one than this, and someone lays down his life for his friends. You are my friends if you do what I command you. But no longer do I call you servants, for the servant does not know what the master is doing. But I have called you friends, for all that I have heard from my Father I have made known to you. Now, earlier in chapter 13, Jesus makes a statement. He says, there is a new commandment that I give to you. And that commandment is that you love one another. Well, that language to me was kind of curious, to be right honest with you, because when he says a new commandment, that you love one another. Well, we already know that commandment has been around for a long time, since like Moses. That Jesus reiterated when he was asked, and you guys shared with it in what you did a while ago, is the most important commandment. Jesus said the first most important is to love God with all your heart, mind, and soul. And then the second is like it, love your neighbor as yourself. And so why is Jesus in chapter 13 here saying that, and I think that's verse 34 if I remember right, in chapter 13, why is he saying that is a new commandment? Okay? Jesus is obviously not wrong. Those are letters written in red, so we know Jesus said it, but what's new about that? Well, I think these verses that we just read give us a little bit of a clue. Okay? In that he says, okay, I'm no longer speaking to you as servants, but I'm speaking to you as friends. Now, the way that I kind of relate to this, okay, is raising children. Children from the time, if you're a parent, grandparent, whatever, children from my experience has been anyhow, the children from about 13 to 21 are somewhat brain damaged. Communicating to them at that point gets a little bit difficult. They get over it. Okay, some of them have it more severe than others, but oftentimes there is a conflict, if you will, in the communication between parents and children. Okay, because they're starting to get to the age where they don't do the things that you want them to do just because you said so, right? They're starting to maybe, and some of them start young. Be warned if you're a new parent. But some of them start a little bit early, and so they start to challenge the things you tell them. And as a parent, it's really, really hard, is it not to want to be a little bit more forceful. The more they challenge, the more we want to tell, the more upset that we get. And so it's like, just do it because I said so, right? Okay, type of thing. And what they are doing is exactly what we hope they would do as a parent, is to become independent, sufficient, self-controlling young people and eventually adults. So they're kind of doing what they're supposed to be doing, but they're kind of not doing what we want them to do. Does that make any sense at all? Well, if you're a parent, it does. Okay? Because you can understand this scenario. Well, Jesus here gave us, I think, a wonderful understanding of what this new is in the relationship that we have with God. And I'm going to put it this way. A commandment tells us what, in most cases, the commandments tell us what? What not to do. And it's because why? God said so, right? Written down in stone. They even messed that up, had to do a copy, which would be easier now than it was then, but, for God, it's really not a big deal. So, they got the copy and said the same thing. Okay, so here's mostly what not to do. And you and I, well, I'll speak for myself, and I think I can include you in this. We probably tend to react somewhat negatively to people trying to tell us what to do. I do, as a rule. I mean, sometimes I get over it, but it's like I don't like for somebody to tell me what to do. I'm my own person. I'm going to decide, and so God has given us these instructions or these rules or these commandments, if you will, okay, about what we should do and what we shouldn't do. But it's coming from God down. It's speaking to someone as a parent speaks to a child. Now Jesus says, this new commandment I give to you, it's no different than the first one. You notice the words are exactly the same. That you love one another. But he says, I'm no longer speaking to you as servants. I'm no longer speaking to you as children. I'm no longer speaking to you as an authority down to somebody that's not an authority. Now he says, I'm speaking to you as, and what's that key word? Friends. What's changed? What's new? What's kind of exciting about this language is it's not and doesn't religion, think about it, when we think about religion, okay, religion always tries to control somebody else's behavior. and you know, they grabbed some heads and they rubbed it between their hands. And they blew the chaff off and they ate the wheat or the barley, whatever the crop happened to be at the time. We do it all the time, trying to. Somebody's probably down testing for moisture, what the wheat might look like. I've worked in retail ag most all of my life. I farmed a little bit. I'm also currently a crop insurance adjuster besides being a preacher. So doing all those things, you know, we're up in their hands and blow it off. Well, the disciples were doing that on Saturday. You see, Saturday was the Sabbath day. Kind of week before late Sunday now, but it was really Saturday. It started Friday night, sundown, and goes through Saturday and sundown. They did that, and the Pharisees, they had a fit. Why did they have a fit? Because why? The disciples were now working on the Sabbath day, and you know, the Ten Commandments say thou shalt not work on the Sabbath, keep it holy, and so the Pharisees are having their big fit. Even though the Pharisees would take and define work as being that you could only walk a Sabbath, what's called a Sabbath day's journey. You know that? A Sabbath day's journey was this. Well, we got a problem. If you can't walk too far, you need to go to church on, well, for example, Saturday, you need to be able to get to church. And so a Sabbath day's journey was from the place wherever you own property to the synagogue. Okay, that was a Sabbath day's journey, and that was okay to walk that far. But if you walked any further, okay, then it was no. You were breaking the law. So what the Pharisees would do is they kind of liked having a Sunday afternoon picnic out in the park. And so they would take their lunch on Friday morning. They would take their lunch out to the park and put a picnic basket under a tree out in the park, so that now they had property at the park that was further than a Sabbath day's journey. And now they could go have their Saturday afternoon lunch at the park like they wanted to and not, quote, break the law. So see, that's kind of, in my view, and the way I see life, is religion always tries to tell us what to do and always tries to, the rules are always harder on the people that they're trying to control than it is for the people that are making the rules. That's called like being a hypocrite, right? Okay, so that's kind of the way I see religion working, but what we have here is Jesus saying, I'm now calling you what? Friend. You see, I firmly believe that Jesus came to establish a relationship with Him, not a religion. And what do we do so often? We have this. Do we not oftentimes feel like, okay, if I'm just good enough, okay, then I can keep God happy, and God will at least kind of leave me alone more. You know, we'll be okay. You know, I'll at least have just enough. Maybe I can stay out of the bad place or something. You know, I mean, just be good. Jesus said, no, it's not about that. It's about this relationship, about this friendship that I want to have with you. That's what's different now is what we had before. That's why we had all the sacrifices. That's why we had all the rules. What's different since Jesus died, buried, and rose from the dead is it's now a relationship. It's a friendship, if you will. So I'm going to ask for a couple of volunteers, Phil and Bill, to be my friend, okay? All right? So, we're going to be, well, you don't have to stand up for this. Okay. Commandment didn't say stand. Okay. That's okay. I get it. You're a willing participant. Phil's not. All right. So we're going to, and by the way, full disclosure here, we were close friends growing up in high school, in FFA together, and had a lot of great times, which you'll not hear about later. And they're kind of thinking, I can't believe he's a preacher. Okay, so just to get that out. And maybe I'm not really. I may be just faking. I don't know. But anyhow, we're going to be good close friends. Okay, so what's involved in a close friend? I mean, this is the kind of friendship that's really real. Okay, we really, other than communicating here lately, the last, well, that's 50 years one of these days, isn't it? Haven't really talked much, but what's involved? We're going to become very close, real friends. So what's involved in this? Give me some ideas. And you guys can help me out.
Trust.
Trust. Okay. vice versa. I may need to borrow a tractor sometime, and Bill's going to let me borrow his tractor. Bill may come over and help me do something. So we're going to kind of collaborate together. We're going to be friends. It's not a scorekeeping thing, but we're going to share things like that. What else is involved?
Honesty.
I'm sorry?
Honesty.
Honesty. Okay, we're going to be real with each other. And I'm not going to lie to you. We're going to be real. I'm going to tell you the whole truth. Things I don't want you to know. We're going to be honest with each other, right? Okay. All right, what else?
Dependability.
Dependability. I can count on it. Okay, to be there.
Communication.
Communication. There you go. So, how are we going to communicate? I like that one. That's one of my favorites.
Yeah. Understanding one another.
Okay. All right. All right. We're going to understand each other. Okay. Now, I suspect, okay, because, are you still farming? Yeah. Bill, are you farming?
No.
No. You don't do anything. That means he is available. Bill, you and I got some projects. Okay. So, communication is really kind of important. So now, I guess the real popular one, and I've got to be honest, I don't do Facebook. And if you text me, I've got a rule, okay? After 2 texts, you need to call me. Okay, I like to keep it simple. Let's have a phone call. We might call each other on the phone. If we were farming, what we would be, well, even if we're not farming, there's probably some place that we're going to gather in the morning to drink coffee and lie. Right? Because that's what we do when we're not really busy, you see. Or tell stories, and for me, a good part of my life, I lived in North Missouri, and there was an MFA location in Laredo, Missouri, and the guys still gather up there. And so when I get up that way, I know I can stop in there, and I'll see 5 or 6 or 7 of my good friends, and we'll sit and tell stories on one another. As a matter of fact, one year, we were subsidizing one of our good friends' rain gauge all summer. And he was amazed at how much good that little bit of rain he got was helping his crop. We finally did tell him, but it was fun. But communication is really important, and spending time together and sharing together. And so it's kind of like one of those things that maybe the writer of Hebrews said, don't forsake the assembling of yourselves together as is the habit of some, but encourage one another, even all the more as the day is approaching. And so friendship involves interaction, it involves communication, it involves trust, it involves honesty, reciprocation. That's what a friendship is. And so now, and I'm going to kind of hurry this and expedite this just a little bit, but if in that friendship, if Bill, I was to tell a lie on you, okay, that is certainly not true, but if I was to tell a lie about you, kind of like slander type of thing, or whatever, what would that do to our friendship? We'd have a problem, wouldn't we? Okay? Now, sometimes you can get together and you can resolve things by, sometimes there are things that happen to hurt a friend's feeling that we didn't intend to, right? And so you might be able to talk, and there might be some forgiveness. But what if I just keep doing it? Not only that, but Phil, I'm kind of adept. No, I'm not Phil. But let's just say I was a computer wizard, okay? And I was able to get into your banking information. And I was extracting some money out of your bank account, okay? I could probably buy lunch, right? Okay. If I did that, what's going to happen to our friendship? That might take care of it, right? Or how about this, Bill? I come over and I borrow your tractor, and because I really need it, and we have a reciprocal agreement here, because we're friends, right? And I borrow your tractor, but I don't bring it back. You guys get it, right? Okay. Well, have you ever noticed that in those 10 commandments that we listed, and in that list of thou shalt not, all of those thou shalt not are things that are going to destroy a friendship. We notice that? So did God put those in there just because he wanted to be boss? Did God not put those things in there? So we can understand that the relationship between us, between people, the friendships that we have, those things are important. And that's why Jesus said this command, this instruction, this thing I'm encouraging you to do is to love one another